economy has stopped growing and tax cuts are a good idea. Outrage because Bill Clinton pardoned a billionaire businessman whose wife was a big contributor. American and German car makers blaming each other for the merger fiasco. We'll take a closer look. And the doctor who was stranded at the South Pole with a lump in her breast. She's told ABC a remarkable story.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening. The chairman of the Federal Reserve Board, Alan Greenspan, said today that the economy is not growing. And because the government has a surplus, cutting taxes is a good idea. There's no one in the country except the president in a time of crisis who gets more attention when he says something. They certainly listen at the White House and in the Congress. Let's go right to Washington, and we begin with ABC's Terry Moran. He caused quite a stir, Terry.
He did, Peter, and they were all ears here at the White House, as Alan Greenspan testified, and they liked what they heard.
The Fed chairman had some bad news for Congress, painting a far bleaker economic picture than he had just a few months ago.
As far as we can judge, we have had a very dramatic slowing down. And indeed, we are probably very close to zero at this particular moment.
So, just in case the economic downturn gets even sharper, the Fed chairman told Congress, a tax cut makes sense.
Should current economic weakness spread beyond what now appears likely, having a tax cut in place may in fact do noticeable good.
Republicans seized on the opportunity to drive home their argument for a big across-the-board tax cut instead of the Democrats' preference for smaller, targeted cuts.
But if you want more jobs, you want more growth, and you're cutting taxes, across-the-board rate cuts would be preferable.
That would be my judgment.
But what about President Bush's specific plan?
Would it be reasonable for us to seriously consider the president's proposals?
I don't think it would be appropriate for me to comment because these are fundamentally political decisions.
Some Democrats were taken aback by Greenspan's apparent about-face.
This is one senator who is not going to join the stampede.
The president was clearly happy with Greenspan's comments.
What Alan Greenspan was saying to the nation is that in order to make sure our economy grows, we've got to have good monetary policy and sound fiscal policy, a component of which is wise spending as well as tax relief.
For months, Alan Greenspan has been saying that the surplus should be used for debt reduction rather than tax reduction. What has changed is the new surplus projections, which are so big, Peter, that Alan Greenspan is warning that they could cause a problem, although he admitted it's a high-class problem to have.
Thanks, Terry. Terry Moran at the White House. A couple of questions for our congressional correspondent, Linda Douglas, who is on Capitol Hill. Linda, the president wants a big across-the-board tax cut, $1.6 trillion. The Democrats have wanted smaller cuts, and they've wanted them targeted. What's the country likely to get?
Well, Peter, the country is likely to get a tax cut. Both parties are now saying that is going to happen. The Democrats would like a smaller cut, but they are saying that they don't think they're necessarily going to win that fight with the president. The House Democrats, though, Peter, are saying that they are for an across-the-board tax cut. They'd like it to be more skewed toward the middle class, but they're for an across-the-board cut, and the Republicans would like to see some way for people to start getting their money back this year.
And briefly, what has caused the Democrats, or some of them anyway, to change their minds?
The Democrats have realized that the surplus is just so big, it's just hard to argue against a tax cut. And they are now saying that, well, it was President Clinton, the House Democrats are saying this, it was President Clinton who wanted all those targeted tax cuts, not us. We're happy to have them.
Thank you very much, Linda Douglas on Capitol Hill. The wheel turns. There wasn't much talk about recession on Capitol Hill today, at least compared to all the speculation about it several weeks ago. Still, the overall economic picture for millions of Americans is decidedly mixed. Here's ABC's Betsy Stark.
There are still plenty of reasons to be nervous about the economy, beginning with heavy layoffs. 5,300 at JCPenney today. Earlier this week, 2,000 at AOL Time Warner, 10,000 at Lucent Technologies. The dot-com carnage grows. More than 200 companies are in such dire financial straits, they may lose the right to have their stocks traded on the NASDAQ. Then there's the California energy crisis. According to Mr. Greenspan today, big enough to threaten the entire nation.
But for all the bad economic news swirling around, there are also hopeful signs that consumers still have faith in this economy.
Carnival Cruise Line says on Monday it booked more cruises than on any day in its history.
We've just had a record-breaking month of January so far. Our reservations are up 30% this year. We've smashed all the records in the history of the company.
Consumers are also buying cars and houses. Mortgage applications are back near record highs. And while layoffs are mounting, businesses are still hiring, especially those that have been starved for qualified workers.
What it means is it's very easy for people who lose a job today to land on their feet. In fact, in the tech sector, we're finding some people finding new jobs in as little as 24 hours.
Various surveys show consumers are feeling a bit more confident about the economy, helped by a big gain in the NASDAQ this month and a big cut in interest rates by the Fed.
We've got a Federal Reserve that's now stepped up to the plate to say, listen, we don't think we're going towards recession, but we're going to take out an insurance policy and do as much as necessary to ensure we do see a sunny day after the clouds lift.
Next week, we may get a clearer picture of what the Federal Reserve thinks about the economy when it meets on interest rates. Betsy Stark, ABC News, New York.
As far as the stock market is concerned, investors looked for a sign from Mr. Greenspan about what the Fed was going to do about interest rates. They didn't get one. Stocks jumped as he spoke, and they sold off a bit on worries about the technology earnings. The Dow Jones Industrial Average was up more than 82 points to close at 10,729 when the day was over. On the NASDAQ, stocks were down 104 points. Excuse me. When we come back, the Clintons, the pardons, and the gifts. The former first couple still stirring up controversy. And later in the broadcast, rescue from the polar night. Diane Sawyer talks to the woman who was trapped at the South Pole.
This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings. Brought to you by Office Depot.
It's been a long time coming. But I'm leaving you in good hands. Sarah?
Thanks, Dad. In business, you can count on things to change. That's why millions of companies count on Office Depot to help them take care of business.
Taking care of business. Dream, 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 dream.
Suddenly, a lot of people are dreaming about milk and all the great things that go along with it. The reason is simple. Lactaid milk. Lactaid is real milk. Delicious, refreshing, and easy for you to digest naturally. So you can stop dreaming and start enjoying with Lactaid milk. Lactaid is just another name for milk.
The most important thing I've done in life, take care of my family. An important thing I've done lately, talk to my doctor.
Ask your doctor about Prempro.
I'm glad I did.
In other news today, a teenager in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, was found guilty of first-degree murder in the death of a 6-year-old girl. Lionel Tate was 12 years old at the time of the killing. He said he was trying to imitate professional wrestlers when he accidentally killed her. Prosecutors had offered him only 3 years in prison if he pled guilty, but his family refused. Under Florida law, he will be sentenced to life in prison without parole. On Capitol Hill today, House Republicans were requesting documents about former President Clinton's controversial pardon of the billionaire Mark Rich. Mr. Clinton's pardon is the object of serious dispute. This also involves gifts to the Clinton. Here's ABC's Jackie Judd.
Gone, but not nearly forgotten. 5 days out of office, and the former president, as well as his wife, still have the capacity to irritate.
Clintons have no capacity for either shame or embarrassment.
I tell you what, this is an outrage, Howie. I've never seen something like this.
Does Clinton have any friends who aren't crooked?
Mr. Clinton's pardon of fugitive financier Mark Rich, whose ex-wife Denise gave over $1 million to the Democratic Party, has left former prosecutor Rudolph Giuliani fuming.
So I'm very, very disappointed and shocked that the President of the United States would pardon him. I don't understand it.
Even some members of the Clintons' own party object.
Pardoning a fugitive from justice is wrong.
Rich fled the U.S. 17 years ago rather than face charges of tax evasion, mail fraud, racketeering, and dealing with Iran during the trade embargo. Mr. Clinton acted after receiving personal appeals from Denise Rich and from former White House lawyer Jack Quinn, who argued the charges were too severe.
Quinn made a strong case, and I was convinced he was right on the merits.
The former president apparently never consulted federal prosecutors. Margaret Love reviewed pardon requests at the Justice Department.
Yes, I think it's more than an appearance that Access made the difference. I think there is no question that Access did, in fact, make a difference in this case.
The Clintons also are facing criticism for accepting a last-minute rush of gifts worth $190,000, including tables and chairs from Denise Rich. Sources say a California friend, Rita Pinos, encouraged some donors to move fast before Senator Clinton would have been unable to accept the gifts.
So Mrs. Clinton begins her term, Mr. Clinton ends his in a familiar place, the center of controversy. Jackie Judd, ABC News, Washington.
There's been a scientific announcement in Massachusetts which may tantalize millions of curious pet owners. Scientists at MIT believe that rats may dream. They measured their brain waves while they were sleeping and found that the pattern of their brain activity was the same as what it was when the rats were running in a maze earlier. They couldn't question the rats, of course, and other scientists are still skeptical. When we come back, thousands of jobs about to be lost. We'll take a closer look at a gigantic merger that failed.
You know how hard it is to quit smoking. You know how tough that first day without a cigarette can be. It's time to ask your doctor about Zyban. With Zyban, you don't have to quit all at once. Zyban doesn't work for everyone. It's part of a comprehensive plan from your doctor to help you stop smoking. And it's the prescription smoking cessation aid most recommended by doctors. Zyban is different from nicotine replacements. It is nicotine-free, so you don't have to quit immediately. After Zyban reaches the right level in your system, it reduces your cravings. You feel like smoking less and less until you're ready to stop completely. You should know that there is a risk of seizure with Zyban. To reduce that risk, don't use if you have or have had a seizure or eating disorder. Don't use if you take Wellbutrin or an MAOI. When used with a nicotine patch or alone, there is a risk of elevated blood pressure, in some cases severe. To reduce risk of serious side effects, tell your doctor if you have liver or kidney problems. Side effects may include dry mouth and difficulty sleeping. Ask your doctor if Zyban is right for you. Zyban, you don't have to quit all at once.
Are you picking up Stephanie?
Sure. I'll go get her.
Why are you here?
Shut up. Hey, ladies. 2001 Big Montero. Now with a low APR, it can save you thousands.
Heartburn, Harry. Guess it's time to break out the Tums.
I thought I'd try this new stuff, Pepsid Complete.
Well, what was it before? Incomplete?
Who knows? But they added an antacid, so they call it Complete.
Well, if you need an antacid, Harry, you want the Tums.
That's because dose for dose, Tums Ultra neutralizes twice as much acid as Pepsid Complete's antacid. Yet the Pepsid costs almost 4 times as much as the Tums.
So, Harry, did the Tums do it?
Completely. Tums. Tomorrow, Bush's first week in office. So howdy do? Education, your taxes. George Stephanopoulos with a presidential report card on Good Morning America tomorrow.
Sweetness, thank you for touching us all.
Sports Century, the top 50 and beyond. Weeknights at 8, only on ESPN Classic.
We're going to take a closer look tonight at a marriage that has gone absolutely sour. When the two giant car makers, Daimler-Benz and Chrysler, said they were going to merge 2 years ago, it was huge news here and there. Today, American jobs are in trouble. Chrysler is a mess with as many as 20,000 jobs at stake. And since the deal was announced, just take a look at the value of the combined company. It has been cut virtually in half. Now, the finger-pointing is incredible. So first, here's how the Americans see it. From ABC's Bob Jamieson.
It was supposed to be a perfect union of car makers.
Daimler's Jürgen Schrempp promised a merger of equals. But it wasn't long before Chrysler executives complained the bullheaded Germans wouldn't listen to the Americans.
We don't demand things of people. We seek people's cooperation. And these two cultures, therefore, were bound to collide.
And collide they did. From the beginning, the high command in Stuttgart issued orders to Detroit. Orders about everything, from where the headquarters would be, Germany, to what kind of business card would be used. The relationship began to fall apart quickly. Somebody had to go, and it was the Americans. Daimler eventually sent in a German management team. Schremp's promise of a merger of equals had been fiction. He told the Financial Times that if he had been honest with the Americans about German dominance, they never would have made a deal. So what was the reaction at Chrysler?
One of the people who've been deceived. This wasn't just a small deception. This was just plain dishonesty.
The two cultures had never been compatible.
Steuerpolitisches Signal.
Take the Daimler annual meeting, where stockholders are fed sausages and dumplings. In Germany, it's more about wining and dining the shareholders than about giving them precise information as it is in the United States.
Apparently in Germany, one can say pretty much whatever one wants to the shareholders of a company. And here in the United States, what you say to the shareholders must be true.
And that's the reason Kurt Kerkorian, Chrysler's largest shareholder, sued Daimler for $9 billion, charging fraud. All of this has demoralized Chrysler's workers.
Most of them are disgusted and frustrated, because they seem like they've been shafted.
I think they lied to the people. They wasn't honest with us. And you can feel it inside the plant.
The rank and file now expects big layoffs, and they worry the company will be sold. Jürgen Schrempp says it won't be. Few of the Americans he has dealt with are willing to take him at his word again. Bob Jamison, ABC News, New York.
A number of analysts told us today that Daimler does not want to sell Chrysler, but the Germans are every bit as disappointed in the Americans as the Americans are in them. ABC's Bob Woodruff on the German point of view.
Daimler-Benz has been at the heart of German industry for well over a century. From the first modern automobile in 1894 to Germany's post-war reconstruction, Daimler-Benz has been synonymous with efficient, conservative, safe. In Chrysler, it saw a typical American company with a complementary culture, daring, diverse, and creative. European analysts say that's exactly what the Germans wanted.
Thank you. Come on up and have a look.
Daimler, when it bought Chrysler, was confident that it was buying a freewheeling, lively company that was very quick to exploit opportunities.
But Daimler did not respect everything about American corporate culture.
I think that they look at Americans as if they are really not worldly, global. And perhaps that's valid, particularly in Chrysler's case, because it's a company that up until now has not had any significant world presence.
There were differences about money. The Germans surprised by pressure from Wall Street to turn instant profits.
They can't understand this cultural mentality that's forever focusing on the bottom line and quarterly results.
And salaries. Chrysler chairman Robert Eaton was making $11 million a year, almost 9 times as much as his German counterpart Jürgen Schrempp. After the merger, Eaton walked away with nearly $70 million in cash and stock. The top 30 Chrysler executives together, about $395 million. The Germans still believe the combined culture will eventually work. Foreign management is now common in the auto industry. Ford's CEO is an Australian of Lebanese descent. Nissan is part-owned by Renault of France and run by a Brazilian.
Exciting breakthrough products made this company.
And now Chrysler is run by Germans. Bob Woodruff, ABC News, London.
Closer look for today. We'll be back with more news in a moment, and later in the broadcast, that daring rescue at the bottom of the world.
Eating Quaker oatmeal every day for 30 days helped lower my cholesterol. I don't know how, but it did.
It removes it.
My cholesterol went down 11 points somehow or other.
It removes it. Mine came down 21 points.
Can't figure out how it works, though.
It removes it.
You reckon it actually works to remove it?
You don't pay as much attention to your checkers as you do your oatmeal.
Quaker oatmeal warms you heart and soul.
how beautiful 60 can look. See how invisible osteoporosis can be? If you're over 60, there's a nearly 1 in 2 chance you have it. So ask your doctor about a bone density test and treatments that can help.
All together now. I didn't have my A game today. And drink. And 1 and 2.
We could all use a little help with our game.
Use the ball now.
Some more than
There you
others.
go.
That's why Buick's sponsoring the first ever Tiger Training Camp. If you guess Tiger's score at the Buick Invitational, you'll get a chance to win a trip to the camp. Just log on to tiger.buick.com for details.
One more thing.
And who knows, with all the tips you could get, you might find yourself in the spotlight.
I need to feel strong.
I need her.
Because we all need something different to feel our best. One A Day has created different formulas. One especially for women. One for men. One for people over 50. One A Day. We've got just what you need.
Now there's something new for both of you. 100% of your daily calcium requirement, plus all the heartburn relief of Mylanta. Introducing new Mylanta Calcitabs. It's just what you're both looking for.
I told my father I wanted to grow up to be a teacher. Wouldn't you rather be a doctor? He said. It's a noble profession and you could become wealthy. That may be true, I said. But without teachers, where would doctors come from?
Several news items from overseas today. The citizens of Davos in Switzerland think the U.S. is way out of line for issuing a travel warning to Americans who might want to visit the exclusive ski resort this week. The World Economic Forum has begun in the mountain village. There are many Americans already there, and there may be some demonstrations. Security is already tight. The United Nations has concluded that commercial fishing is the most dangerous job in the world. More than 70 people die every day while fishing at sea, 24,000 fishermen a year, mostly in storms. And not every country keeps accurate records. In Afghanistan, the Taliban government is now cracking down on barbers. Some barbers have been giving Leonardo DiCaprio haircuts to men who've seen Titanic. The government has put 22 barbers in jail for offending Islam. And from Italy, reinforcing a stereotype, the Italian Supreme Court has decided that a pat on the bottom, one co-worker to another, is not necessarily sexual harassment. The courts here would not be so tolerant. When we come back, the woman who treated herself for breast cancer at the cold, dark end of the earth.
You know how uncomfortable you feel when you're constipated. So why take a laxative with stimulants that could cause abdominal discomfort and cramps? You need Phillips Milk of Magnesia. All these overnight laxatives contain stimulants. This one even says on the label, it can cause abdominal discomfort, faintness, and cramps. But Phillips is different. It doesn't contain stimulants, so you should feel more comfortable. Phillips, the comfortable way.
Are you picking up Stephanie?
Sure. I'll go get her.
Why are you here?
Shut up. Hey, ladies.
2001 Big Montero. Now with a low APR, it can save you thousands.
Need extra cash? Don't charge it on your credit cards. Get a second mortgage with no closing costs from Ditech.com. With a second mortgage, you can consolidate all your existing high-interest debts, get the cash you need for any purpose, and end up with one lower monthly payment. A second mortgage with no closing costs is smart money from Ditech.com. Log on now for fast online approval or call us at 1-800-71-FIXED.
I'm Paul Enman. Coming up next on K2 News, the manhunt is over. You heard it first on K2. Tonight, the latest on the capture of murder suspect John Piggott. Also tonight, dipping down and chilling out. See how the state's keeping track to stay on track of a 10% drop in power use. K2 News is next. We'll see you at 6:30.
hot tickets to the Super Bowl, lavish parties in Puerto Rico, the Republicans and the Democrats, and the payback parties for big donors. On the money trail, watch World News Tonight.
Finally, this evening, we take you to the South Pole. You may remember many months ago the high stakes involved when Dr. Jerry Nielsen, who was spending a year at the pole caring for a research team, found a lump in her breast. She faced an appalling set of circumstances that we tried very hard to comprehend at the time. But she couldn't have been more isolated. They managed to airdrop drugs so she could have some chemotherapy, but that wasn't enough. Her life was at stake, and they had to get her out, which involved an extraordinary rescue. Dr. Nielsen has now given her first television interview to Diane Sawyer.
On October 16th, the giant LC-130 lifts into the air and then heads toward the pole and the blowing snow. It is minus 58 degrees on the ice, so cold they know they have only minutes before their fuel turns to jelly and their landing skis freeze in place.
Did you know how much risk the pilots were putting themselves in when they were coming to get you?
Yeah, that's why I told my doctor that if there was any chance that it had spread and if there was any chance that I couldn't be saved anyway, I did not want them to do that.
How did you say your goodbye?
To everyone. I had a party for Big John. It was his birthday. Happy birthday.
Oh, okay.
And the next morning we had a all-hands meeting, which we always did, you know, to just make sure that we all knew what our positions were. And as we did that, everyone came up to me and just hugged me.
As the huge plane approaches the base, suddenly a windstorm so fierce it's white on white. There's zero visibility. The radio falls silent. On board, the crew is tense.
We couldn't see a thing. It was like flying on the inside of a ping pong ball.
I was standing on the runway, and I didn't believe that they would land.
And sure enough, right as we got to our decision point, whether we had to go around or not, the skiway just magically appeared out of the gloom.
Dr. Nielsen was so weak from her cancer, she couldn't climb up the step of the plane.
I'm thinking, man, she's got to get on here. So I just picked her up and threw her in the plane. So she got on.
He threw me into the plane.
Did you get to say goodbye?
No. I turned around to say goodbye to him, and he was gone. Just as planned. Get the heck out of there as soon as possible so that we can go.
And what did you think you were sending her toward?
Hope.
Hope. And the memory of all the strangers who became her best friends and saved her life. Diane Sawyer, ABC News, New York.
Some brave woman. There'll be a full hour about her experiences later this evening on Primetime Thursday. And that's our report on World News Tonight. Don't forget Nightline, by the way. I'm Peter Jennings. I hope you have a good evening. Good night.
This has been a presentation of ABC News. More Americans get their news from ABC News than from any other source.
Tonight, the doctor with breast cancer trapped at the South Pole, 100 degrees below zero and no way out. Now, for the first time, how these courageous but unlikely heroes saved Dr. Jerry Nielsen. Icebound, primetime tonight.
K2 News at 6:30 is brought to you by your friendly Northwest Dodge dealers. Connecting you to your world, this is K2 News.
Good evening. I'm Paul Enman. And I'm Steve Dunn. Thank you for joining us tonight. Things are back to normal tonight in a Clark County neighborhood, one day after a manhunt for a fugitive wanted for murder. K2's Dan Tilken joins us live near Ridgefield, where a police helicopter spotted the man hiding in the woods. Dan?
Well, Paul, this is the spot where police say that the suspect, John Martin Peugeot, ditched his car before taking off into the woods. That started an 8-hour manhunt, and the police were looking in this area, trying to find him, and before the fog set in and he'd have a chance to get away.
Nicholas Matthews,
I saw lights moving back and forth.
And Big Brother Christopher
I hear police out there.
had front row seats to a manhunt as police searched for the fugitive right outside their back window.
I was afraid he was going to break into the house.
They were scared. They were on my shirt tails the whole time. If I went over into the kitchen, they were like right by my side. And
Late Thursday night, they and their neighbors finally exhaled with the news that suspect John Martin Peugeot was in the back of an ambulance wearing handcuffs and recovering from a police dog bite in a place a man doesn't want to be bitten. The 57-year-old is accused in Clark County of driving a